Hey guys, welcome back to A Good Life Farm. If you are brand new here, my name is Constance. I'm a homesteader in northern Alabama, and my husband and I have lived here on our property for about 6.5 years now. We were a military family, lived all over the place for 25 years, from Alaska to Europe, and we have planted roots here in the South. And we homestead. We've got 3 grown children, a grandbaby, and we enjoy life here in northern Alabama, even though we are in a heat wave right now. Pretty brutal, but this will pass. So in addition to YouTube and homesteading, I am also a writer. I have 2 websites, agoodlifefarm.com, which is a food and lifestyle website. There's over 700 recipes there. And then I also have a kind of healthy, clean eating website called wholesomeskillet.com. And that one is a little bit of a newer website. I think there's like maybe 100 recipes or so on there. And in addition to those, I am also a writer for a number of publications. Now, this video here today is actually part of a collaboration. I was invited by Darlene from Super at 60 to take part in basically a virtual church supper. This is a group of ladies who are unashamed of their faith, who will openly speak about their faith, about the Lord, and we all thought this would be a great idea to participate in this virtual potluck. There's going to be a variety of recipes. I'm doing a main dish. There's some side dishes, dessert, and I think you will really enjoy it. I will put a link down below to all of their channels so you can be sure to check out all of the videos. So the recipe that I'm going to share with you today is a main dish casserole, and this is a family favorite. So it takes a recipe that is a very popular classic dish, stuffed peppers, but turns it into a potluck friendly casserole. So it's easy to serve. You don't have to worry about trying to put a whole great big stuffed pepper on somebody's plate. You just scoop out the portion that you want, but it has all of the similar elements and great flavor. And you know, we actually kind of like this better than the actual stuffed peppers. So I'm going to put on an apron and we can get started. Alright, this recipe calls for some bell peppers, onion, garlic, rice, ground beef, diced tomatoes, Worcestershire, tomato sauce, beef broth, and then some frozen whole kernel corn, and some mozzarella cheese, and some salt and pepper. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is preheat my oven to 350 degrees. And then I'm going to dice my onion. Now, this would normally take a medium-sized onion. This one is really big, so I'm only going to use half of it today. Next, I've got a big old skillet here, and I'm just going to cook a pound of ground beef along with my onion, and then I'm going to add in some garlic after it's cooked for a little bit. If you add the garlic in too quickly, it has a tendency to get scorched, so I always add that in a little bit later on. Add in my onion. So now I'm just going to let my ground beef and onion cook together. And once it gets to where it's nearly cooked all the way through, I'll go ahead and add in 3 cloves of minced garlic. And if you have fresh garlic, of course you can use that. I have not grown garlic in the garden yet. I'm hoping to do that this fall and have my own garlic. But in the meantime, I use the stuff out of the jar. And when you're using the pre-minced kind like this, 1 teaspoon is the equivalent of about 1 clove. So 3 cloves of garlic would be 3 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon of the minced garlic from the jar. And like I said, I'll put that in towards the end when the onion and ground beef are just about finished. Okay, now while this is finishing up cooking, I'm going to go ahead and dice up 2 green bell peppers. Alright, so now that the ground beef and onion and garlic are all cooked together, I've got my 2 bell peppers diced up. I'm going to go ahead and grab a mixing bowl so I can combine my ingredients. So we're going to add the bell peppers into the bowl. We're going to add in 1 cup of tomato sauce. We're going to add in 1 standard 14 or 15 ounce can of diced tomatoes. If you're using homemade, home canned diced tomatoes, I would just use a pint. That'd be close enough. Then I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire, half a cup of uncooked long grain rice, half a cup of beef broth or stock, either one will work, and then we're going to add in our ground beef and onion. I'm trying to do this without burning myself. And garlic into the bowl. Now if your ground beef is, kind of greasy, you could go ahead and drain off the excess grease. But I didn't really have anything here to drain out. So I just put mine right into the bowl. And some salt and pepper. About a half teaspoon or so of each. Alright, now we're going to stir this all together. So now I'm going to take a greased 9 by 13 baking dish, and you can use anything that's close to this size. I have an oval dish that I use sometimes. And it is a greased pan, and I'm going to go ahead and spread this mixture all... Oh! I just realized I forgot something. I almost forgot the corn. I make no no pretenses that this is a perfect kitchen. This is real life here, folks. And things happen. Thankfully this time I caught it ahead of time before it was too late. So I'm going to need 1 cup of frozen whole kernel corn. If you have fresh that you just brought out of the garden that you cut off the cob, you can use that too. And I'm just going to eyeball this, and since I've already put basically everything in here, I'm just going to mix it together in the pan. It won't hurt anything. I'll just break up the frozen chunks. I thought something looked off when I was putting that in there. Alright, so we'll put the rest of that in there, and then we'll just kind of stir it together in the pan. Won't hurt a thing. Alright, so now that I have that mixed together, I'm just going to spread everything out in the pan, get it kind of even. That looks good. And then I'm going to grab my shredded mozzarella. And the last thing to go on top is 8 ounces of mozzarella cheese. Now I'm going to reserve a little bit of this, and when it's done with its initial baking and I take off the foil, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle the rest of that cheese on the top. That way you've got some pretty melted cheese over the top of the casserole, and it just looks beautiful. So now I'm going to cover this with some aluminum foil so that all of the moisture stays in here, because we have that uncooked rice. So we don't want to lose any of the moisture from the tomato sauce, the tomatoes, the beef broth, etc. So we're going to cover this up nice and tight with some foil. So now this is going to bake for an hour covered with the foil. After an hour, I'll remove the foil. Let it bake for about 8 to 10 more minutes uncovered, just to kind of get a little bit of golden spots across the top of the cheese. And of course, while that's baking, I'll clean up my kitchen. Alright, so one of the things that I love about this recipe is you can alter it. It is great in the summertime, even though you have to bake it for a bit. When you have a big pepper harvest coming in out of the garden, you can make this with all different kinds of peppers. It doesn't have to be green bell peppers. Any kind of thick-walled, sweet or mild pepper would work great. You could also add some chili powder to it, a little bit of Tabasco if you want a little bit of heat. You can really kind of play around with the ingredients and really make it your own. And I find that using the mild pepper, just the bell pepper, I find it to be a very family-friendly recipe. And you know, I'm actually part of a home fellowship group. We don't have traditional church on Sunday like most Christians do in the United States. We meet on Saturday, on Shabbat, and we have a potluck every single week. We all bring food, we have fellowship, we have a meal, and then we study the Bible, the Torah, the New Testament. We study those together. And I do have some teachers that I watch online that I enjoy, and I have some places that I have visited now and again, but my walk is a little bit different, but that's okay. We are all on this journey, and we have to take the path that God shows us to. And so this recipe, because there's people of all ages at our fellowship, it being mild and just full of flavor but without the spice, it's great for everybody. And so this is a great one to take to a church potluck. So that is how you make my stuffed pepper casserole. If you would like to make this recipe, I have a printable version of it on my website, agoodlifefarm.com, and I will put a link right to that down below. So a big thank you to Darlene at Super It's 60 for inviting me to participate in this collaboration, and be sure to check out all of the other channels as well. Jennifer at Cook Clean Repeat, Donna at Beautiful 2 Creations, Heidi at Rain Country Homestead, and Wanda at Deep South Homestead. I'm sure that you will absolutely love all of these women of faith who are unashamed of their walk with the Lord and have no qualms whatsoever about sharing it with the world. So you can see what they brought to this virtual potluck, this church supper online, so to speak. Now before you leave, be sure to sign up for my free email newsletter. It'll keep you up to date on everything happening here on the homestead. And be sure to check out my websites. Again, there's hundreds of recipes and articles for you to browse through. So thanks for joining me here again in the Homestead Kitchen. My name is Constance at A Good Life Farm, and I'll talk to you all next time.